Hello and welcome to episode 243 of my podcast all about knitting and crochet and my yarn shop here in Wiesbaden, Germany. I'm Kiko and today is August 26th, 2024. Today could be a slightly longer episode than usual because I have a lot to show you, but this might make up for the fact that there won't be a proper episode for the next 2 weeks. So there's lots today. Next week there will be, hopefully I'll film a special episode about the Sock Madness socks of this year that I knit or am still knitting. And then in 2 weeks time there will be no video. And then in 3 weeks time there'll be the next proper episode where I show you everything I knit and crochet during my holidays. Okay, but let's start with what I'm wearing. I'm wearing two fairly old things again. I've worn both before on the video, just not in that combination. The shawl I'm wearing is called MagicStar, and I think this was the first hand-dyed yarn that I bought. And it was my first experience with the fact that if you buy a yarn and a pattern that go together and are supposed to be perfect for each other, it does not always work out. So 100 grams was supposed to be enough for this pattern, but after I finished 2 of those points, I had to order a second ball of yarn. And but I was able to get it, and I still like the pattern. It's quite lost in this busy yarn, but I think you can see a little of it, and I still like the very colorful yarn. And back then I wasn't thinking about the fact whether they work together really well or not. And but it's a really nice yarn and I really like to wear this shawl. And maybe I could knit the pattern again in a different yarn. And I still have the leftover of most of the second skein, so I could reuse that as well, or use that as well. And the top I'm wearing is knit out of a silk yarn by Lana Grossa, and they also had the pattern in one of their magazines, but it's a really simple pattern that I meant to knit again. Maybe I will do that at some point. So all you do is you cast on the right number of stitches and you knit in a knit 2 purl 2 rip pattern, and at some point you divide it into 2 halves, and then you knit those 2 halves, and then you put them together again and you knit down, and then all you have to do is seam the side seams, which will form the armholes. And depending on how much you knit in 2 parts, that decides how deep your neckline is going to be. And I think today I'm wearing the deep neckline at the back and the not as deep neckline in the front, but you can handle that completely differently. You could do a lot smaller part with your neckline and have a really short V in the back, or you could have the same amount of V-neck on both sides. So there's lots of possibilities with this pattern, and as I said, it's really simple to do. And I was kind of thinking I could do that in like lots of colors and have very easy summer tops to wear, and I might still do that. We'll see. So that's what I'm wearing today. Fairly quickly, as I said, I have lots of stuff to go through today. As for finished objects, I only have one finished object, and it's the slippery cowl by Telly Bean Knits that I knit as part of the pattern battle. And the pattern is from this book, Knit Happy with Self-Striping Yarn by Stephanie Lotvin, who always also goes as Telly Bean Knits. And the pattern in the book, or her version of the cowl, looks like this. Her yarn is a lot more colorful, so she has lots of different colors, but you can see the slip stitch pattern running this way and then going this and that way. And I use this Opal Abo yarn. That's what I have left over. So this is what the yarn looks like, and this is what it looks like knit up. And you first knit the middle part in that direction, and then I picked up stitches at the sides and knit towards the back, and I did that from both sides, and then I just finish it very simply with a 3-needle bind off. So this is the back of the cowls, not as much fabric in the back of the neck, and then you have more towards the front to keep your chest nice and toasty. Yeah, so that's the pattern battle finished. Quite some time before I am getting the next parcel, which will arrive sometime in September. So that's really nice. I haven't used any of the other balls of yarn from the subscription parcel, but maybe I'll do that, maybe I won't. So I always sell the colors that I don't necessarily want to keep, and all the others I collect, and then I have no idea when I will get around to using them, but we'll see about that. Anyway, so that's my one finished object for today. Then on to works in progress. I continued knitting on the 2 Worlds socks from the pattern 3 World Socks, which is a bonus pattern from this year's Sock Madness. And I think I finished almost all the gusset decreases, which are on the sole of the foot. And I think there's only one more decrease to do, and then I can get rid of the 2 markers. And then this is the pattern for the sole of the foot. And that's what I will continue knitting. And then on the top of the foot, there was lots and lots of blue just for the water. And then this is where the part of the fish has started now. And you have to hold both socks together to be able to see the fish. And I'll see how much I get done until I film the video, the special video for next week. And then I'll try and then I will show both socks together. Whether I finish it or not, I probably won't finish it, but you'll see next week. So that's that sock. And then the next sock that's on the needles is the Surprise Sockalong by Stephen West. I'm knitting those for my sister. I'm still working on sock number 1, and it started off with this really funny leg. I did not knit the ribbing on top of that because it was already almost too high for my sister. And then we knit the top of the foot, and then I think I already showed you the heel. That was, I think, clue 3. And now I've picked up stitches from the heel flap, and I've started knitting the sole. So the sole's fairly simple. The gusset decreases are placed at the usual space, I would say, for socks. And now I've already finished the gusset decreases, so all I need to do is finish the rows to knit the sole of the foot. And then once I've done that, I can knit the toe. And the toe in the pattern is like a classic toe, very simple. I will probably change that and do one of those anatomical toes that my sister likes, that will show her which is the right and which is the left sock, because she just likes them a lot. They fit her really nicely, and yeah, she likes the fit of those. The interesting thing about knitting the top of the foot and the sole of the foot separately is that the colors come together in a different way. So that's quite interesting. And then also the top is knit in garter stitch with the short rows, and then the sole is knit in stockinette stitch. So there's lots going on in this sock, and I'm quite happy that I picked it up again, and look forward to finishing the first sock at some point so I can do the second one. And yeah. It's my sister's birthday in November, so my goal should be to finish them until November so I can give them to her as a birthday present. So that's those 2. Then the other socks I have on the needle, the Bellflower sock, I did not continue knitting on them because my friend, she is back from holiday, but we didn't have a chance to meet. So she has not tried them on yet, and I will have to wait for that to continue knitting on them. But I started a new sock. So all the socks were projects that I had to sort of concentrate on, and I wanted another easy sock on the needle. So I started a pair of socks using this pattern. So they're called Sportive Sneakers socks, and they use a colorful yarn and then just a tiny bit of neon colored yarn at those places around the heel, at the beginning and before the toe. I really like that. It's a pattern out of this German magazine called We Love Multicolor, and all the projects in this magazine are knit from opal yarn. So I really like those magazines. I think they come out once a year. And there's another pair of socks that I really like with little bikes on them. I think the gloves, the fingerless gloves, are really nice. I like the scarf a lot. And this pullover I really like as well, and that's a crochet pullover. So it looks like a knit pullover with this colorful yoke. So I might try and do that at some point. We'll see about that. But really nice magazine. And I started knitting those socks, and I'm using this neon color yarn with this color from this year's Rainforest colors. So it's an old color that's been revisited this year. And because one of my nephews loves tigers, he's getting these socks. And I thought the neon orange looked quite nice with this color. And this is what I've knit so far. I cast on with the neon color, then I knit the ribbing as it's written in the pattern. Then I have the neon color round the heel. I changed up the heel very slightly, so it's also a short row heel as it's in the magazine, but the magazine does the it's called boomerang heel in German, and I did the Fish Lips Kiss heel. They are very similar, so there's not a big difference. And with the neon orange and this tiger color, it's not very obvious. I think it's a little less obvious than with using a gray yarn and then having the neon pops in there. But I think it's okay. I think my nephew's not really keen on having a neon pop in his socks. So maybe it's better for the stripe to be lost a little bit in the other stripes. Yeah, but now this is a fairly mindless knit. I have to knit the whole foot just in stockinette. And then all I have to do is to remember to put in the neon stripe before I start the toe decreases. And then I will knit another pair for his girlfriend. I'll use another color from the Rainforest series, and I'll be using the pink neon. That should be a little more visible. Yeah, so that's all the socks I have on the go at the moment. Then another little project out of sock yarn that I always show at this point is the little Mystery Gnome by Sarah Shearer. It's her first free mystery gnome that you can find on Bookmarked, and the next part of the pattern should already be available. I was told last week that they are always published on Mondays, so I just didn't have time to look at it yet. So, but I'll show you clue 3 now in case you don't want to look away now. So this is what we have so far. The hat was clue 1, then the first part of the body was clue 2, and now with clue 3 we finished the body. And I'm really happy I used the colorful yarn because there's no patterning on the body. Okay, I'm not showing it anymore, and I'm guessing that today we can knit either the arms or the beard or the nose or maybe all of it. Is it the last clue today? I don't know, I forgot. Maybe it is the last clue and then we get all the other bits that we need to finish the gnome. So after my vacation, I can show you the finished gnome. So that's that. And then I have my second new cast on, and it's another small project out of sock yarn. And oh, where did I put it? I put it here. And with this project, there's lots of stuff that I want to show you because I'm using a new color. And I dropped the ball of yarn. I have to pick it up because I want to show it to you. And it's a new series that came out a few weeks ago, and I just didn't find the time or didn't have the idea what to knit with it. But now that I've started a project, I want to show you all the colors in this series, and also it's a pattern from a new book, and I want to show you the book. So there's lots of things I want to show you. Now, what I'm knitting is a hat. So it's as I said, it's a small project out of sock yarn, and I'm using this color out of the series Zauberwald, which means magic forest. And it's a very beautiful series with very nice ball bands and very funny names, which I'm not going to translate all of, but I'm using this color together with black. And so to quickly show you all the colors in this series, there's another blue-gray colorway, which is my sister's favorite colorway from this series. Then there's this beautiful blue-green, which I like, so we might be knitting projects out of these two colorways. Then there's a beautiful reddish color with this like teal color, and then a very close color, pink with turquoise, which is I think that was the first color that sold out in my shop. And then there's another colorway with this beautiful turquoise but combined with a yellow, which I really like. And then there's a very nice color, green and red. It looks a bit like either apples or watermelon. Has this funny gnome on it. And then there's this very bright yellow with purple colorway, which I also really like a lot. So that's the Zauberwald, the Magic Forest new series by Opal that came out a few weeks ago. So if you have a shop where you can get Opal yarn, they should already have it, or maybe you can order it from some online shop. So these are the colorways. As I said, I'm using this one to have a very rather neutral colorway, and the book that I got the pattern from is this one. It's called Die Maschen und das Meer. It's a really heavy, hefty, very beautiful book written by Lotte Rabeck and Gitte Werner Jensen. And I checked, I couldn't find the book in English. So there's this German version, and I think the original is a Danish version, or is it Norwegian? I forgot. But if you Google the name Lotte Rabeck, you should be able to find it. I found a few of her patterns on Ravelry, but these were not the patterns from this book. These are baby patterns, and this book has projects that are inspired by the ocean and by fishing and fishermen and things like that. So you have, this is the hat that I started knitting, and then you have pullovers in several colors or pullovers with knit purl patterns. You have children's patterns in here as well. I'm not quite sure whether there's a baby pattern. I think it's children's pattern and grown-up patterns. Oh yeah, there is a baby pattern. I think it's the only baby pattern in here. And yeah, so as I said, it's a really beautiful book, really nicely done with lots of very beautiful photography, quite a bit of text as well, explaining about the ocean, about knitting traditions, about going fishing, lots of different topics. And yeah, the pattern seemed to be really well written. One thing I would say that I would have done differently is with every pattern, they say whether it's beginner friendly or whether it's for more advanced knitters. And unfortunately, most of the patterns are for more advanced knitters or a little bit advanced. I don't remember there's a beginner friendly pattern in here. And I think this is a bit sad because the patterns aren't really this difficult. I'm pretty sure that that an adventurous beginner would be able to knit quite a few of those projects, especially if they can get a little bit of help somewhere. So I think by putting it in there, they make it seem more difficult than it actually is. So that's a bit sad, but yeah, but otherwise it's a beautiful book, beautiful patterns, lots of very nice pictures. And I'm pretty sure that most of you can knit most of the patterns in here. So I decided to start with the smallest project, which is the hat. And I thought it was a really easy project to pick, but then it turned out to be a little more difficult than I thought. Of course, I did not do a gauge swatch, but just started knitting the hat. So it's like a really big gauge swatch. And it turned out that I was not getting gauge. I'm using a little bit bigger needle than called for, but that's what I usually do because I'm a tight knitter. And for a while I kept going thinking, oh, it'll be okay. But then after I knit several centimeters, I took the needle out and I realized it was just huge. It was way too big to ever be a hat. So I ripped it out, which is why I have the yarn wound up around here. And I started again, and the pattern has two sizes, children's size and grown-up size. And I've now picked my number of stitches in between those. It's a bit closer to the children's size. So I thought if it comes out really small, it'll be a child's hat, that's okay. And if it comes out okay, then it'll be a grown-up hat. And then I can see whether it's for small grown-up head, or whether I could have used more stitches to have for like a men's head. But anyway, so I started again, and the pattern is called, the hat is knit in a brioche pattern, and I'm not quite sure what it's called in English if you knit one round of brioche pattern and one round of knit one per one. So in German, this is like a half brioche, and that's what the book says to do. But the pattern itself calls for a normal brioche pattern, so you knit brioche in both rounds. So that's what I'm doing, and because I love to knit a 2-color brioche, and because I knit one pass 2-color brioche, so I knit both colors at the same time, it makes for a quicker knitting. So because I can use both at the same time. Otherwise with brioche you have to knit 2 rows or 2 rounds to actually knit all the stitches. So this is what it looks like now. It may look fairly small now because my needle is rather small, but you can see that it's squished together quite a bit. So I'm pretty confident that this is going to be a size that will fit somebody. Doesn't have to be me, doesn't have to be a grown-up, doesn't have to be a child. I'll just keep knitting, and so I'm knitting with a colorful yarn to the outside and the black yarn on the inside, but then later the hat can be worn any which way, and I will do the decreases that happen later for the crown of the hat. I will not follow the pattern exactly, but I will do the decreases that I've learned from the Sockomatician from his book Double Knit Brioche, where he invented or wrote down decreases and increases for 2-color brioche that look the same on the inside and on the outside, so that the hat is really going to be reversible. Really looking forward to doing that. I will probably have to pick up his book again, which is an ebook, so I'm not picking up the book itself, but I will use my computer and look at the decreases that he describes, and I will have a reversible hat. Could almost be part of my knit along, the reversible hat knit along, but those were different hats. Anyway, so this is the new project that I started, and this is the book I wanted to show you, and I'm really looking forward to continuing knitting on this. And because the hats are knit with a folded brim, is that what you say? I will have to do quite a bit of knitting until I get to the decreases in the crown. Yeah, so that's that. Then we finally go on to the garments, and again I did not pick up my Lanatus pullover, and I did not knit on the skirt, but I've decided to take the skirt with me on our holiday, because this time we're traveling by car, and I think this is a perfect car project, because every other round now, again, I think it's just stockinette, so I can watch the scenery and I can knit, and then the other round when I have to knit the pattern, I can do that either when we're not driving through interesting scenery, or some other times. I'll see. But I definitely want to take it with me. I definitely want to keep knitting on my skirt. Then I did knit just like 1 or 2 rounds on my Mamaki dress, but I'm not going to show it because it doesn't really, the difference doesn't show at all. But what I did is I actually weighed my yarn, because I got some very helpful hints from some of my German viewers, helping me how heavy the thing inside the cone is. So and that showed me that I can actually knit quite a few more rounds before I need to start the ribbing. So that was very interesting, but then I stopped knitting on it, so I'm not showing it today. But I did knit on the Vinahop, which is a pattern, another pattern by Nicolor, like the Mamaki dress. And I had finished the first 50 grams of Alpaka yarn by Hansa Farm. So this is the yarn that I'm using. It's the fingering weight pure alpaca yarn by Hansa Farm. And because I had to start a second ball anyway, I decided to knit the ribbing next. So the Vinahop pullover, you start at the neck and then you knit back and forth, and then at some point you cast on more stitches and you knit in the round, and you do the ribbing later. So I picked up stitches around the neckline, I knit some ribbing, and then I cast off. I did a very stretchy bind off to make sure I actually get my head through. And I'm a little bit worried it may be too loose, but I'll decide on that once I have more of a pullover and I can try it on, and then I'll see what it looks like. If it looks too floppy, I may undo it and cast the stitches off differently, but for now I'll keep it. And then after I finished the ribbing, I added one more stripe onto the yoke. So the last one that I showed you was with this pattern, so I did another one in stockinette stitch, and I was hoping that this would be big enough to separate the sleeve and stitches from the front and back stitches. And I just wanted to show you what I do to try this on. So I put in 2 more cables to make sure that this is really long enough, and then I put this safety pin where I would separate between sleeve and front and back. And I did this on both sides, and then I tried it on. And I can actually put this on. It's big enough to fit me, but if I separate it now, it will be a fairly form-fitting pullover. Not really tight, but fairly tight. And I want this to be a more loose-fitting pullover. And so I've decided to add 1 more stripe, and then I'll try it on again. In the pattern, this is a very loose pullover, so you're not supposed to cast on any more stitches when you separate the sleeves from the front and back. So you have to knit it really wide and big enough to so that you can just keep knitting without adding more stitches. I will probably not do that this time, but I am thinking I might knit a 3rd version in a different yarn weight again, because the first Vinahop I knit had really big yarn. And this is a fairly thin yarn, and I might use a yarn in between, and then maybe I'll do a really loose pullover where I don't cast on new stitches under the arm and have a very, very easy to wear pullover. We'll see. For now, I'm knitting this. I'm adding 1 more stripe. I'm quite confident that I will then separate the sleeve stitches from the front and back, but you will probably see that in 3 weeks' time. So that was one garment I can show you. And then the other one that I actually knit on is the black summer cardigan. And last time I showed it to you, I said that I wanted to knit 1.5 pattern repeats in height, hoping that that would be enough for the short sleeves. And I actually finished knitting those, and I again put in a long cable so that I can show it to you properly. It looks very short, but this is knit with pure cotton in a lace pattern, and I'm very sure that this is going to block out quite a bit, and I actually intend to block it rather aggressively. If I knit with a pure cotton, I like to block things really strongly to make sure they don't grow afterwards. So a lot of people don't like to knit with cotton because they say it keeps growing, but I think it only keeps growing if you don't block it. So if I just washed it like this and laid it down to dry, when I was wearing it would just keep growing. But if I block it aggressively to the maximum length it can be, it doesn't have any space to grow anymore. So then I will know exactly what size I have, and I could go ahead and block it now to be really sure, but I'm too lazy to do that, and I'm really confident that this is going to be enough for half a sleeve, especially as the cardigan is fairly wide, so I don't have to have the sleeve round the uppermost part of my sleeve, but rather down here. So I think this should be enough. So the next step is now to cast off the neck stitches, and then I can knit 1/2 of the cardigan. And I might actually go ahead and block it then. Once I finished the sleeve and cast off the stitches and knit a little more, I might just sew it together just in a quick fashion and try it on just to be really sure. But as I said, I'm very confident that this is enough. I've only just started the third ball of yarn, so as the fronts are going to be less material than the back, I might knit the whole cardigan with 4 balls of yarn, with 200 grams of yarn, which would be quite nice. Yeah, really enjoying this knit. I'm not really sure I will be able to wear it while it's still summer this year, but there will probably another summer next year. So it doesn't matter if I don't finish it this year. So that is that. Then we come to the to the 2 shawls that I'm knitting, 2 mystery shawls. The first one is the Abloom mystery knit along, which it's not really a mystery anymore because it was finished a long time ago. I have continued with my clue 2, and I've done a little more than half of clue 2. And just to remind you, clue 1 was just a repeat of the same pattern, and now it already started to be different last week, and now I've finished one of those motifs, and the second half of clue 2 will be a repeat of this motif. So I'll have another motif like this on top, and you can see there's a lot more beads now. In clue 1 there was only just 1 bead every time I started one of those arrow looking things, and now I have this motif where there are several beads in a cluster like that, but still the overall shape is continued. I really like what this looks like, and look forward to finishing clue 2, and then finally I will have a look at clue 3, which I still haven't looked at. So this is all the knitting I did in clue 1. My sister is still knitting clue 1, so I hope, but she's not putting the beads yet, so as soon as she picks it up she might catch up, partially at least. We'll see. Anyway, the second mystery knit along is the Goff's Place mystery knit along by Kate Davies, and I showed you the beginning of clue 4 last week. I continued knitting, but I did not get to the first color change, so it's still the same 2 colors that I knit last week. I'll show it now. So not a big difference, it's just grown a bit higher here, and the marker which shows me where to turn is here, so I'll have to go, I think, almost all the way here. It should be fairly quick knitting now because the rows are getting shorter, as short rows imply, and I'm really looking forward to finishing this color combination so that I can find out how to do the color change, and then I'll have to repeat the same thing 4 more times, just with different colors, and then the last time I'll have the same colors as now. That's all that happened on this, but I'll keep working on that as much as I can in the next couple of weeks. Okay, so that brings me to the blanket, to my All Projects memory blanket. Last week I showed you, when I showed you the squares I'd knit, I'd finished another row of 10 squares because that's what I decided should be the width of my blanket. So, yep, 10 squares is how wide I want the blanket to be, so I'm only adding rows in that direction. These were the last 3 that I showed you, and then I went back to the beginning of the row of squares and I added those 3. So this is the yarn that I used to knit the Bigfoot socks for one of my friend's husbands who has really big feet. I knit socks for him, and I use a different yarn for the heels and toes, but that's a 6-ply yarn, so I did not want to put it into my blanket. And then those 2 colorways are the sparkly, were 2 of the sparkly colorways by MKal. They haven't done a sparkly glittery yarn for quite a while now. I'm still hoping they will do that again. I don't think they will do it this year because I already know all the colorways that come out this year. Maybe next year, we'll see. But this was the V-back tee that I knit. There was a 3rd colorway, but I don't have any left over from that colorway. Or I couldn't find it, I don't know. So I just put those 2 to remember that pullover. And I gave the pullover to my sister because I wasn't too happy with the fit. And I'm not quite sure whether she's actually wearing it, but I'll find out. If she doesn't like it, maybe she'll give it back to me. Maybe I'll wear it again. We'll see. So 7 more squares to go, and then I'll have 1 more row done. And then, so that was the 10. When I had 10 of those rows, I put the black edge on, and now that was 11, 12, 13. I'm working on row 14. I want to have a minimum of 15, and after I finish that, I'll decide whether I want 16 or not. And that brings me to the crochet along that I'm running on this channel, where we crochet spiral granny squares. And I'm crocheting a sock yarn spiral granny square out of leftover yarns. And last time I was working on this blue leftover yarn that was a rainforest colorway, and I knit socks for my husband. And this is a very colorful yarn that my sister used to knit a hat, and I think it goes really nicely with this with the colors that are already in there. The next leftover yarn will be the same color that I already used about here, and I have quite a lot of that left over, but that's why I wanted to use it later when the square is a bit bigger, so the rounds are longer. And after that, I don't really have any leftover yarns at the moment that go with this. I have lots of leftover yarn, but nothing that I really liked with this square. So I may use a full ball of yarn or 2 to finish the square, because I want this square to be fairly big, so I can have either a big triangular shawl that I can wrap around myself, or I can use it as a small blanket. Maybe I'll give it away as a baby blanket. I don't know yet. I just want to crochet, and because I'm using the colorful yarn, I love the spiral effect that I don't have to finish and start a new round. I can just keep going round and round and round because it's a spiral. Yeah, and that's it. That was finally everything that I knit and crocheted last week. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!